Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? So I am so excited for this video because we're going to be doing one of my favorite things ever, which would be talking about eyeshadow palettes. I could just go on for days and days and days, so whenever a new tag comes about and gives me the excuse to stop and talk about eyeshadow palettes for a minute, I am so ready to take that opportunity. So this is called the Eyeshadow Palette Tag, very simple and to the point, and this was started by Samantha March and Ali Gallardo, so I will have both of their videos linked down below. I also saw Britt Clark and Karen Harris do a live on this topic, which was so much fun, so I'll link that down below. But let's just go ahead and jump right on into all the palettes. I cannot wait to discuss these. I feel like it's towards the end, but my most used palette is going to have some of y'all shook. So let's just jump right on in. First is my newest palette, so we're just gonna jump right on into my confessions. I don't know why every time I get a new palette that I wasn't supposed to buy, that I told myself I wasn't gonna buy, I want to sing Usher, these are my confessions, but that's just the mood that I'm in. So this is the Vintage Rose palette from Give Me Glow Cosmetics, and it is such a beautiful palette that I've wanted for a really long time. Actually, when it launched, I was literally on the website and I had it in my car and I was thinking about it for like 10 minutes. I was hiding in the bathroom at work and I was like, okay, I just need to stop. I don't need this. I don't need it. So I closed it out and I was like, it's fine. And here we are like a year later and I caved. This was kind of a treat myself birthday gift. I haven't even opened it up yet. I guess I should have just to make sure that it's intact, but it is so cute. There's a little bit of green in the rose shade, so I wonder if that accidentally got mixed together, but this is my newest palette. So I don't know why this is so funny to me, but the next one is Your Oldest palette. I had to really deep dive for this one. I went into my sentimental makeup box, which is eyeshadow palettes and a few other makeup products I just don't use anymore because they're so old, but they have some type of meaning to me because I'm a hoarder. And I was Googling every single one. I was finding Temptalia blog posts about when they released, and finally I came up with the oldest one. And y'all, I was so basic. I was so basic. This is the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette. It came out in 2012. And I just feel so basic for having owned this because it is the boringest palette to ever exist. I also hit pan on one of the shades, so this is super old. This was actually a Christmas gift from my aunt. I remember she took me to Ulta and she was like, you can get anything you want within reason. And it took me like an hour to decide. I was like looking at every single eyeshadow palette. She had an issue with her tires. She left the store, went and took care of it, came back and was like, okay, you have to choose something or else we're leaving. So I got this and the chocolate bar from Too Faced. Like I said, I was super basic, but that is the oldest palette in my collection. Okay, so the next one is Show Your Most Expensive palette, and I went back and forth on this because I feel like there's not exactly a clear answer. So I guess looking at the value of an eyeshadow palette, the answer technically would be the Natasha Denona. This is the purple blue palette, I think is what it's called, and it is really, really beautiful. So here's what it looks like. I think this retails for like $200 something, but I didn't pay anywhere near that. I actually got this in a Beautylish Lucky Bag, so I got this along with, I want to say, like 4 or 5 other makeup products that were all high-end, and I think I paid $150 for the entire Lucky Box. So even though this is the highest like retail value, I don't think this is the one that I paid the most for. And also I love the quality of this, but it's just something I don't recommend because I just feel like you can get so much more from Natasha Denona and it's so expensive. It's beyond, it's not reasonable at all. And then I was thinking, well, technically I guess that my most expensive palette would be the Natasha Denona Metropolis. I got this one for 15% off, which I think is the most I've ever paid for a Natasha Denona palette. I bought every single one on sale, and the other $129 ones, I got them like 30–40% off. So this is the only one I paid close to full price. And every time I look at this, I feel a little bit of regret because I need to use it more. It is so beautiful. Every time I use it, I love it, but I just forget about it. So I think I'm gonna like pull this back out and make like mental note to like reach for this more, but it is truly such a stunning color story. But then just to add a bonus, if I'm being honest with myself, my most expensive palette is one that I personally curated, and that would be my Clionadh Cosmetics Stained Glass collection. So here is what my palette looks like, and I have a few shades missing from the bottom because I was doing a review on them separately. I think altogether this palette has like $400 of eyeshadows, which is madness. But these are shades that I reach for constantly and I'm obsessed with. I love them truly. I love them more than the other expensive palettes I mentioned, so I just wanted to include a little bonus. Love me some indie single shadows. Okay, so next for your most affordable palette, I have two different options that a lot of people are mentioning, and these are the e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadow palettes. They retail for $3 each, and in my personal opinion are definitely worth that. I was blown away, especially I really like this one, the hot jalapeno. If you're looking to add just a few pops of green into your life, you have a small budget, I definitely recommend this one. I think it's so nice. Okay, next is your everyday palette, and this is one where I'm kind of like baffled, like everyday palette, a palette I use every day, don't really think that exists because I'm always just rotating my eyeshadow palettes, but I thought I would mention the one that is in my Shop My Stash right now. It's my Shop My Stash for 2020. I don't use it every day because I get lazy, but this is the Huda Beauty Nude Light palette. It is such a pretty light neutral palette. It has a pop of purple, a pop of rose gold, so it's really cute, and this is the one that I keep in my bathroom for when I'm getting ready, and I just do simple everyday looks with it. The next one is Show Your Most Colorful Palette, and this one definitely had me stumped. I just sat here for a minute and I'm like, everything I own is colorful. Like, how am I supposed to choose? So then I was like, okay, I need to choose something that doesn't have any neutrals. But then I had like 40 palettes still left to choose from. I have an entire rainbow palette battle. So I really did think about this question for way too long. I'm too much of a color lover, but I was able to narrow it down to two palettes, and I decided to mention my two favorite rainbow palettes of all time. So the first one is the Certify Tropical Wonders palette, which mine is kind of a mess, and this is an all matte rainbow palette. I just find this really easy to work with. It has basically everything you could possibly need to do a colorful eye look as far as matte shades go. I feel like they blend easy, they build easy. I really just like this palette as far as a rainbow palette goes. And then the other one is a little bit newer, and this is the Glam Light Cake palette, and I chose this one because, again, it's a really beautiful rainbow palette. I don't feel like the mattes in here are super special per se. Like, I'm more than happy with these, but if I had to choose between the two, I think I would choose the Cake palette as my favorite rainbow palette ever, just because I absolutely love the shimmers from Glam Light. They are so beautiful. I just feel like this palette as a whole is such a great colorful option, so that is how I narrowed it down, but this is just like the tip of the iceberg of my colorful palettes. Okay, next is Show Your Smallest palette, and I decided to include this one from Paul and Joe. This is the Eye Color CS1119. It was part of their spring collection. They did send this to me through October. This is like a little trio of eyeshadows in one container, and it's adorable. The quality is not the best. It's just very powdery and kind of sheer. I do have a full video on Paul and Joe in case you're curious, because I feel like they definitely don't get talked about as much, and they have a lot of really cool products. So I definitely would say this is my tiniest eyeshadow palette. Alright, next is Show Your Biggest palette, and this is ridiculous. I actually really need to find someone to pass this along to because it's not something I ever plan to use again, but this is the Exotic Pop palette from King Beauty. And here is what it looks like. It is so big, and this actually has a funny story to it because it was so gigantic. I saw it on Instagram. I talked about it in an indie makeup releases and basically said I hated it because of how big it was, but if I had the extra money, I would buy it, and I would do a video called Testing the World's Biggest Eyeshadow Palette because I thought it was funny, and the brand actually reached out to me. They were like, hey, can we send it to you? So I was like, you know what the heck? I'll try it. I'll give it a chance. It's definitely a little bit smaller than I thought because it looked huge in their Instagram post, but it is ginormous nonetheless. Like, this is probably the biggest palette anyone's going to be mentioning in this tag video. Look at this monstrosity. That's a word for it. It is ridiculous. It's even bigger than the Morphe James Charles palette, so it is definitely a crazy size. Okay, so next is Show Your Palette with the Best Memory, and I feel like I'm gonna get a little sentimental for a second, and I actually have a lot of memories attached to a lot of different makeup, so I thought I would talk about the most recent palette that became sentimental to me. So this is the Cutie palette from Now Look Cosmetics in the shade Coral, and it is so cute. Obviously it's the Cutie palette, and here's what it looks like. So this shade's kind of broken, and that's because my friend Karen Harris actually got this from Ulta, and I think they sent it to her and one of the shades was broken, so they sent her another one and told her to keep this one. So she sent it to me and said all I had to do was press the shade down, which is no big deal at all, and I'm so excited to try it. I actually haven't even used this one yet just because life has been crazy, but she included it in a little package and said like happy birthday. There was a beautiful pair of earrings, and Karen like went above and beyond for my birthday. She sent a card. She organized me, her, and Angelica to have a video chat on my birthday as well, and she just made me feel super special. I just look at this palette and I think of what a good friend Karen is. She's so kind, and I have this thing about birthdays where I always just end up feeling upset. Like, I think this is the first birthday I haven't cried on in a really, really long time, which is sad to say. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I've always just had this thing about my birthday, and just every year always crying, always feeling unimportant, always feeling like my life isn't where I want it to be, and for some reason my birthday is just my day to get down on myself. So I just felt super loved, and I just feel so grateful to have the friends that I have, and I know it's just like a little palette, but that's all the sentimental feelings that it brings up. Next is the palette that is worth the hype, and I had to do it. I had to mention it, you know. This is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I love this palette so much. It is just beautiful. I talked myself out of this for so long, and eventually I was able to get it on a decent sale, and it's just honestly the best neutral palette that I own. If I could only own one neutral palette, it would be this one. I feel like it's so easy to blend, and the pops are so stunning. I'm so glad I bought this. I feel like this is one of the most hyped Natasha Denona palettes, and one of the most hyped palettes in general, and I personally agree that it is worth the hype. Is it worth the money? That depends on each individual person, but for me, I know that I love the quality of this palette, and I love the way I feel when I wear it. Okay, so next is a palette that is not worth the hype, and I'm going to mention a palette I don't own anymore, so I'm going to leave it on screen. And this was the very first ColourPop palette that ever came out. I want to say it was called like You're a Cutie, or it had a different name. There was one name on the front, there was a different name on the back, so I really can't even remember what it was exactly, but it was a super warm palette. I think it might even still be available, and I actually decluttered that, which I rarely do with palettes, because I was so disappointed by that. I just felt like the quality was really lackluster. I think ColourPop has improved since then, but I'm actually kind of grateful that I got that and I didn't like it, because I feel like a lot of people have drank the ColourPop palette Kool-Aid and bought and bought and bought palettes from ColourPop until they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just too much. I cannot collect all of these palettes. I kind of feel bad for those people, because ColourPop is not a brand I would want to be a collectionist of. And I've actually only ever bought, I want to say 6 ColourPop palettes, including that one, which I decluttered. And then next is show your favorite palette from a favorite brand. And I decided to go ahead and talk about Kaleidos, because I love all of their palettes. I think the quality is great on all of them, but if I had to choose a favorite, it would be the Electro Turquoise palette. I love the packaging on this. I just think it's so stunning. And I love the color story in here because it's very unique. It's a mixture of blue and orange. I just love this palette. I love the formula. I love the color story, and I love Kaleidos. I think they're an amazing, underrated brand. Okay, guys, I don't even know if you're ready for this, but next is show your most used palette, and that would be the Modern Renaissance from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes today because I was like, hey, filming this video, throwback moment, and this was actually in a project pan. And I actually did really good on this, so I'm so proud. There's 9 pans in this palette. Who am I? There's not a lot of palettes I've hit pan on even one shade for, so you can tell I really went hard for this palette for quite a long time. I do like the lighter shades more. I feel like the deeper shades can tend to be a little bit patchy on me, especially as time goes on. Also, I feel like the shimmers are pretty lackluster, but overall I just look at this palette and I'm like, I can't believe I actually did that. Okay, that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you go, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.